The girl with empty eyes. The colony market was always loud, full of shouts, strange smells, and clattering metal stalls. Humans and aliens bargained side by side, selling fruit, scrap parts, glowing crystals, and anything that could earn credits. Daniel, a human engineer, walked through the streets carrying a small bag of tools. He was tired from a long day, but his mind was always restless. That was when he saw her. A small alien girl, thin and fragile, moved slowly between the stalls, her head tilted from side to side, her steps unsure. She bumped into crates, knocked over baskets, and tripped on uneven stones. The merchants groaned and cursed at her. One woman hissed, "Out of the way, useless thing." Another laughed cruelly. "She cannot even see where she is going." Daniel stopped walking. His eyes narrowed as he studied the girl. Her skin was pale silver, her hair long and tangled. But what struck him most were her eyes. They were empty, not like normal blindness, but scarred, burned, as if someone had taken her sight away on purpose. The girl reached out, hands trembling, trying to feel her way. A group of boys ran past, her shoving her so she fell hard to the ground. The crowd laughed as she scrambled, her empty eyes staring at nothing. Daniel's jaw tightened. He dropped his bag and stepped forward. His hand reached out, pulling her gently to her feet. "Easy," he said softly, his voice calm but firm. The girl flinched, unused to kindness. She whispered, I am sorry." Her voice was barely a breath. "There's nothing to be sorry for," Daniel told her. He brushed the dust off her shoulder. His eyes met hers, even though she could not see him. In that moment, he felt anger, not at her weakness, but at the cruelty that had left her this way. "Do you have family?" he asked. She shook her head, her hair hiding her face. "Gone," was all she said. The market crowd lost interest and moved on. But Daniel could not. Something about her haunted him. He watched her walk away slowly, feeling her way along the walls. She disappeared into the shadows of the alleys, alone. That night, Daniel sat at his workbench. The lights flickered as machines hummed around him. He picked up a piece of broken glass, staring at his reflection, but his mind was not on himself. It was on her, the girl with the empty eyes. He opened his old sketchbook, his hands moving on their own. He drew circles, lines, designs, a visor, a device that could replace sight. At first he thought it was madness. He had tried many inventions before, some failed, some forgotten, but this time his chest burned with determination. She should not live in darkness, he whispered to himself. His fingers gripped the pen tighter. If I can help her see, then I must. But deep in his heart, he knew this was dangerous. Human technology mixed with alien biology was forbidden. The Council had laws, the Empire had punishments, and yet Daniel's mind would not let go. For hours he worked, pulling wires, crystals, old ship parts. His workshop smelled of burnt metal and smoke. Sparks flew as he welded. He remembered the girl's trembling hands, her quiet apology, her fragile body standing against a cruel world. He could not forget, by midnight, he had the rough frame of the visor on the table. It was crude, but it glowed faintly with power. He touched the metal, whispering, "Tomorrow, she will see." But outside his workshop in the alley shadows, a pair of eyes glowed faintly. Someone had followed him from the market. Someone had seen him take interest in the blind girl. A figure cloaked in black tapped a communicator, whispering, words in a language Daniel could not hear. "The human is building it," the voice said coldly. "Prepare the soldiers." Inside, Daniel yawned, stretching his tired arms. He looked at his half-finished visor with pride and fear. He did not know the storm that was already coming. He did not know the girl's past, nor the danger her eyes once carried. But one thing was clear. In the middle of a colony that ignored her, laughed at her, and pushed her aside, Daniel had chosen. Differently, he had chosen to see her, and soon he would give her sight. The next morning the colony streets woke with their usual noise. Merchants shouted prices, children ran between stalls, and the heavy engines of cargo skiffs rumbled through the narrow lanes. But Daniel did not go to the market that day. He stayed inside his small workshop, the place where he had hidden himself for years. The workshop looked ordinary from the outside, just an old storage unit with rusted doors. But inside it was filled with machines, wires, broken ship panels, and scattered tools. The smell of grease and metal hung heavy in the air. Daniel's hands moved quickly, attaching wires to the frame of the visor he had built last night. His eyes burned with lack of sleep. But he did not stop. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the girl, Lyra, stumbling through the market, her scarred eyes staring into nothing. He heard again her whisper, "I am sorry." And he felt again the sharp sting of anger that people treated her like a burden. He would not let her live in darkness, not if he could help it. Daniel pulled open a drawer, revealing shards of alien crystal he had collected from traders. Each shard hummed faintly, glowing blue. He carefully placed one inside the visor's core. The device flickered to life, the faint glow spreading across its curved glass. He smiled, but it quickly faded. He knew what this meant. If anyone found out, he could be punished. The law was clear. Human engineers were not allowed to mix technology with alien biology. The last time someone tried, the council sent soldiers to erase the work. But Daniel whispered to himself, "I do not care." That evening, he heard a soft knock on his workshop door. He froze, his hand instinctively going to the wrench on his table. Slowly he opened the door, and there she was. The girl with the empty eyes. Lyra stood trembling, her silver hair falling over her face. "You helped me," she said quietly. "Why?" Daniel stepped aside, letting her in. "Because no one else did," he answered simply. She walked carefully into the workshop, running her fingers along the walls, her head tilted, listening to the hum of machines. "What is this place?" she asked, her voice soft. "My workshop," Daniel replied. "A place where broken things are fixed." He paused, looking at her. "Maybe even broken people." Lyra lowered her head, her lips pressing together. "People say I am cursed," she whispered. "That the gods blinded me because of my blood." Daniel frowned. "I don't believe in curses," he said. He picked up the visor, holding it carefully. "I believe in tools, in machines, in solutions." Her empty eyes turned toward him, as if she could see even without sight. "What is that?" "This," Daniel said slowly, "is for you." He explained how the visor worked, how the crystal inside could translate energy into vision, simple shapes and colors, perhaps even more. Lyra gasped, her hands trembling. You want me to see?" "Yes," Daniel said. "If you are willing to trust me." She touched the visor gently, her fingers brushing over the cool metal. A tear slipped down her cheek. "No one has ever offered me hope before," she whispered. Daniel looked away, his heart heavy. He had not built this for recognition or thanks. He had built it because the image of her suffering would not leave his mind. He had built it because he could not stand the cruelty of others. But as Lyra stood there, fragile yet filled with hope, Daniel felt something shift inside him. Unseen, outside the workshop in the narrow alley, a shadow moved. The same cloaked figure from before pressed a small device. A faint red light blinked, transmitting every sound. "The human has her," the spy whispered, "and he is making progress." Back inside, Daniel guided Lyra to a chair. "It is not finished," he warned her. "But soon, maybe tomorrow, you will wear it." Lyra smiled faintly, though her empty eyes remained blank. "Tomorrow," she repeated, the word like a prayer. As Daniel turned back to his work, he felt the weight of something larger pressing down on him. The visor was not just a machine, it was a spark. And sparks he knew could start fires, but still, he worked, his hands steady, his mind clear. In the distance, the heavy sound of engines rumbled through the night sky. A ship was landing, but not a merchant ship, not a cargo skiff. The storm was already on its way, and Daniel did not yet know how dangerous his invention truly was. The workshop was silent except for the hum of machines. Sparks from Daniel's tools lit the dark room as he tightened the last wire on the visor. His hands trembled, not from fear of failure, but from the weight of what this moment meant across. From him, Lyra sat on a stool, her thin hands folded in her lap. She tilted her head at every sound, her empty eyes glowing faintly under the dim lights. She whispered, "Is it ready?" Daniel looked at the visor in his hands. The smooth curve of the device reflected the pale blue glow of the crystal embedded inside. He nodded slowly. "Yes." He walked over, holding it gently as if it were made of glass. "Lyra," he said, his voice careful. "This may feel strange. You might see only flashes at first, shapes, maybe color. But it will be more than the darkness you have always known." Her lips parted in awe. "To see, even for a moment," she whispered. "That would be enough." Daniel hesitated, his chest tight. He wanted her to see, but part of him feared what would come after. Still, he lifted the visor and placed it carefully over her eyes. The crystal pulsed once. Then again. A faint hum filled the room as the visor came alive. Lyra gasped. Her fingers clutched the sides of the stool as her breath quickened. "Light," she whispered. I see light." Her head moved slowly, eyes widening as tears spilled down her cheeks. She looked at Daniel, and though her vision was blurred, though the colors swirled like water, she saw him, the first face she had ever seen. "You," she said softly, her voice breaking. "Your face. I can see you." Daniel swallowed hard, forcing down the lump in his throat. He smiled faintly. "Then it works." Lyra laughed, a sound full of joy and disbelief. She turned her head to the side, staring at the glowing machines, the scattered tools, even the flicker of the old lamp. "So many colors," she cried. "I never knew the world could be like this." Her joy filled the room. For a moment Daniel forgot the danger, forgot the council, forgot the laws. All he saw was a girl seeing the world for the first time. But then, outside, the alarms blared. Daniel froze. His head snapped toward the window. A deep red glow washed across the sky as colony defense sirens howled. He cursed under his breath. "No, not now." Lyra flinched at the sound, her new eyes wide with fear. "What is it?" Daniel moved quickly, shutting down machines, hiding the scraps of crystal. "The visor is giving off energy. Someone has detected it. They are coming." Lyra clutched the visor as if afraid he might take it away. "No, please. Do not let them take this from me. I can see. I can finally see." Daniel placed his hands on her shoulders, steadying her. "I won't, I promise," he said firmly. "But we must be careful. They will want this, not for you, but for power." As if to answer him, heavy footsteps echoed outside the workshop. Voices shouted in the alien tongue, commanding, searching. Daniel pushed Lyra gently toward a hidden hatch in the floor. "Go," he whispered. "Downstairs quickly." She hesitated. "And you?" "I will delay them," Daniel said. His voice steady though his heart raced. Lyra's glowing eyes locked onto his. For the first time, she could see the determination in his face, the fear hidden behind his calm. She wanted to argue, but the footsteps grew louder. The door rattled, metal groaning under the weight of fists pounding against it. Lyra climbed into the hatch, disappearing into the darkness below. Daniel grabbed a heavy wrench and turned toward the door. His mind raced. He was only one man, armed with tools and scraps. Against soldiers, he stood no chance. The door burst. Open. A group of armored enforcers stormed inside, their visors glowing red. Their leader pointed directly at Daniel. "Where is it?" He barked, his voice metallic. "The device." Daniel gritted his teeth. "I do not know what you are talking about," he lied. The soldier's fist crashed against the workbench, sending tools clattering to the ground. "Do not lie to us, human," he growled. "The energy signal came from here." Daniel's eyes flicked to the floor hatch for only a fraction of a second, but the soldier caught it. His armored boot stomped toward the hatch. Before he could pull it open, a sudden surge of energy crackled through the air. Blue sparks flashed. From beneath the floor, the visor was glowing, reacting to Lyra's presence. The soldiers stepped back in shock as the light grew brighter. For the first time in years, Lyra rose from the darkness. Climbing back out of the hatch, her eyes glowed fiercely through the visor. Daniel whispered, "No, stay hidden." But it was too late. The soldiers froze, their weapons lowering for a brief moment. One of them muttered, "It's her, the blind one." Lyra stood tall, her voice trembling but strong. "I am not blind anymore." The visor shone brighter, casting light across the workshop. Daniel's heart pounded as he realized what was happening. The visor was not only restoring her sight, it was awakening something else inside her, and the soldiers had seen it. The workshop was filled with blue light. It poured from Lyra's visor, flickering across the walls and shining on the armored soldiers who had broken in. For a moment they hesitated, unsure. Daniel stood frozen, his wrench slipping slightly from his grip. He had expected fear or confusion from Lyra, but instead she stood tall, her voice steady. "I can see you," she said, her words sharp like a blade. The soldiers shifted uneasily. One muttered, "She should not be able to see, her eyes were destroyed." Another growled, "It is the device, take it from her." They stepped forward, weapons rising. Daniel moved instinctively, stepping in front of Lyra. "You'll have to go through me first," he warned. His voice was calm, but inside he felt his chest tighten with fear. The leader laughed coldly. "You are only a human. Do not make yourself a martyr. Give us the girl and the prototype, and maybe we will let you live." Lyra's hand clutched Daniel's sleeve. He felt her trembling, but when he looked at her glowing visor, he saw something else. Strength. Her voice quivered, but the words came firm. "I am not giving this up, not now, not ever." Then it happened. Sparks crackled from her fingertips, blue energy swirling in the air. The soldiers stepped back in shock. Their leader barked, "Contain her! She is awakening!" Daniel stared at her hand, his heart pounding. "Lyra," he whispered. "What is happening?" She gasped, clutching her head. I don't know the light. It's not just showing me, it's inside me." Her voice broke, but the glow from her visor only grew stronger. The soldiers raised their weapons, red beams charging at the tips. Daniel grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind a workbench just as blasts tore through the walls. Sparks and smoke filled the workshop. Daniel's ears rang, but he heard Lyra cry out, not in pain, but in rage. When he looked up, he saw her standing, her visor blazing. Her body seemed to pulse with power. The air around her shimmered. The soldiers froze as energy rippled outward, pushing them back. One soldier stammered, "It's true. The bloodline still lives." Daniel caught those words. His mind spun. He turned to Lyra. "Bloodline? What do they mean?" Lyra's breath came fast, her chest heaving. "My father," she whispered. "He was a general, a leader in the old war. They feared him because he could wield the ancient energy. When he fell, they blinded me so I would never follow his path." Daniel felt a chill. He had thought she was just a helpless girl, abandoned and cursed. But now he understood. She was something far more dangerous and far more important. The soldiers regrouped, their leader shouting, "Do not let her escape. The Empire will reward us for her capture." Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her toward the back of the workshop. "We need to run now." She shook her head, her visor glowing brighter. "No, if we run, they will hunt us forever. They will never stop." Her voice cracked, but her stance was firm. "I must fight." Before Daniel could protest, Lyra raised her hand. A surge of blue energy burst forward, slamming into the nearest soldier. His armor sparked violently as he crashed against the wall unconscious. The others fired wildly, beams slicing through metal and stone. Daniel ducked, dragging her with him. His mind raced. She's powerful, but she doesn't know how to control it. They burst through the back door of the workshop into the cold night air. The colony streets were eerily empty, most citizens hiding from the alarms. Smoke trailed from the workshop as soldiers chased. After them, Daniel pulled Lyra into a narrow alley, his breath heavy. "Listen to me, you are not alone in this, we'll figure it out together." Lyra's eyes glowed softly behind the visor, her face pale. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If they know I live, if they know the visor works, they will send more than soldiers. They will send hunters, assassins, war machines." Daniel tightened his grip on her shoulder. "Then let them come, I'll protect you." His words were steady, though deep inside he knew how hopeless that sounded. From the shadows of a nearby rooftop, the cloaked spy watched them flee. He raised his communicator, his voice low and sharp. "The girl has awakened. The visor works. Send the elite squad immediately." Lyra staggered as the energy inside her pulsed again. She leaned on Daniel for support. "I never asked for this," she whispered, tears forming at the corner of her glowing eyes. "I just wanted to live, to be left alone." Daniel looked at her, his jaw set. "Maybe you didn't ask for it, but you've been given something they fear that makes you important, and that means we fight, not just for you but for everyone they would try to blind." As they disappeared into the shadows of the colony, far above, the night sky split with the sound of engines. 4 dark shapes descended from orbit, sleek and deadly. The elite soldiers were coming, and neither Daniel nor Lyra could turn back now. The colony sky burned with streaks of fire as 4 dark ships cut through the clouds. They moved in perfect formation, silent and precise, landing outside. The city walls, the ground shook as their engines roared to a stop. Dust rose in heavy clouds, and the citizens who dared peek from their windows gasped in fear. Everyone knew what that meant. Elite soldiers, no one could resist them. The doors of the ships opened. With sharp metallic hisses, 4 towering figures stepped out, each in black armor marked with crimson symbols. Their visors glowed like burning embers. They carried weapons that hummed with lethal energy. The sight of them made even the colony guards retreat. One soldier raised his communicator. "Target confirmed," he said coldly. "The human inventor and the girl with the visor are inside the colony. Orders are to capture alive if possible. Kill if necessary." The squad moved as one. Each step echoed like thunder across the empty streets. Windows slammed shut, doors locked, merchants pulled their children inside. The market that was usually loud and chaotic now lay silent under the weight of fear. Inside a narrow alley, Daniel and Lyra crouched low. Daniel's breath was ragged, sweat dripping down his brow. Lyra's visor glowed faintly, still adjusting to her new sight. She whispered, "They're here." Daniel peered around the corner and froze. He had seen soldiers before, but never the elite. These were not simple enforcers. These were hunters, trained to track and kill. He muttered under his breath, "This is worse than I thought." Lyra touched his arm, her voice soft but firm. "You don't have to stay with me. If they catch you, they will kill you too." Daniel turned sharply, his eyes fierce. "I built that visor for you. I saw what they did to you, and I won't let them take you again. If they want you, they'll have to go through me." Lyra's lip trembled, not with fear but with something new, trust. She nodded, though her hands still shook. The soldiers spread out, moving in silence. One scanned the street with a device. "Energy trace detected," he reported. "Residual crystal signature moving east." Daniel pulled Lyra deeper into the alley, weaving through shadows. He knew the colony better than most. Every corner, every tunnel, every broken sewer line. He had used them to scavenge and survive. But the soldiers were not ordinary pursuers. They moved with precision, predicting his every turn. At one point, Daniel and Lyra slipped into an abandoned warehouse. Daniel leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. Lyra looked around, her visor flickering. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They will hunt me to the ends of the stars." Daniel knelt before her, his hands gripping her shoulders. "Then we make them stop." His eyes burned with determination. "Humans don't run forever. We fight back." Before she could answer, the warehouse door exploded inward. A blast of red energy tore through the walls. The soldiers stepped in, their glowing visors scanning. The dark Daniel grabbed a broken pipe, his mind racing. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a fighter, but he was an engineer. and engineers knew how to make traps. He pressed a hidden switch on his wristband, and sparks flickered as old machines around the warehouse came to life. Cranes swung, chains rattled, metal debris tumbled from above. The soldiers reacted instantly, deflecting the falling wreckage with shields of energy. They were strong, too. Strong, Daniel cursed under his breath, but every second he bought was a chance. Lyra stood behind him, her visor glowing brighter. She raised her hand, blue sparks flickering. The energy surged through her veins, wild and untamed. She whispered, "I can feel it, I can't control it. Then let it out." Daniel said, his voice steady. "Better it burns them than you." Her scream echoed through the warehouse as a wave of blue energy erupted from her body. The floor cracked, the walls shuddered. One of the soldiers was thrown across the room, crashing into steel beams. Another staggered but held firm, his armor glowing red as it absorbed the blast. The leader raised his weapon, pointing at Lyra. "Capture the girl! Kill the human!" Daniel threw himself forward, swinging the pipe with all his strength. It clashed against the soldier's weapon, sparks flying. He was pushed back easily, but he stood his ground, shouting, "You want her? You'll have to kill me first." Lyra cried out, the visor's glow intensifying. Her body shook as the power inside her built to dangerous levels. Daniel's heart clenched. He could see she was close to collapsing. The soldiers advanced, step by step, their shadows towering over the human and the alien girl. And in that moment, Daniel realized the truth. He was no longer just an inventor hiding in a broken workshop. He was standing on the edge of a war, and Lyra, the girl with empty eyes, was no longer helpless. She was the spark that could set the galaxy aflame. The warehouse shook as red and blue light clashed together. Dust rained from the ceiling, broken beams groaned, and sparks filled the air. Daniel stood with his chest heaving, gripping the pipe so hard his knuckles bled. Across from him, the 4 elite soldiers advanced, their crimson visors glowing like fire in the dark. Lyra staggered to her feet beside him. Her visor shone brilliantly, but her body trembled, the energy inside her fighting to break free. She whispered, "Daniel, I cannot hold it back much longer." Daniel's mind raced. He was no soldier, he had no blasters, no armor, but he had something the soldiers never understood: human cunning. He grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her behind a toppled machine. "Listen to me," he said quickly. "We don't have to win, we just have to survive." The soldiers fired again, red beams cutting through the air. The old machines exploded into fire and smoke. Daniel covered Lyra with his body as shrapnel rained down. The heat burned his skin, but he held firm. Then he spotted something, an old crane hanging above, its hook swaying on a frayed chain. His eyes narrowed. "That will do," he muttered. He bolted across the floor, sliding on the dust. The soldiers tracked him, firing. Daniel dove behind cover, pulling a switch as he went. The crane groaned loudly, its hook crashing down with a shriek of metal. It slammed into one soldier, pinning him against the ground. His armor sparked violently. The leader barked orders. "Do not underestimate the human. He is using the environment. Be cautious." Daniel grinned bitterly, crouching low. "That's right. Underestimate me. That's your mistake." But he had little time. Another soldier charged forward, his weapon glowing. Daniel swung his pipe, sparks flying as metal clashed. The soldier shoved him back with terrifying strength. Daniel's body hit the floor hard, pain shooting through his ribs. Lyra cried out, raising her hands. The visor blazed as a surge of blue light burst forth. The soldier was thrown across the room, smashing through a wall. The power shook the entire warehouse, sending cracks through the floor. Daniel groaned, pushing himself up, his vision blurred, his side bleeding. "Lyra," he gasped, "you have to control it. You'll destroy yourself." She shook her head, tears streaming. "I cannot control it, it controls me." The leader stepped forward, unfazed by the chaos. His voice echoed coldly. "You are dangerous, girl. Too dangerous to live. The Empire will take what you carry, even if it kills you." Lyra's body trembled as power pulsed around her. Her voice broke. "I do not want this power. I only wanted to see." Daniel staggered to her side, gripping her shoulders. His voice was firm even through the pain. "Then use it for what you want. Not for them. not for fear. Use it to survive. Her visor glowed brighter, her eyes shining like twin stars. She raised her hands, this time with intent. The energy gathered, swirling like a storm. The soldiers braced, shields activating. Then Lyra released it. The explosion of blue light filled the warehouse. The walls crumbled, dust and debris flying in all directions. 2 soldiers were thrown clear, their armor sparking as they slammed into rubble. The leader dug his boots into the ground, his shield holding barely. Daniel shielded his face, the force almost knocking him down. But when the dust settled, he saw Lyra still standing, swaying, her face pale but determined. The leader growled, "She is awakening fully. If she survives this night, the Empire will lose control." Daniel raised his bloody pipe again, spitting dust. Then maybe it's time someone else had control. The leader lunged, his blade sparking red. Daniel ducked, swinging wildly. The clash shook his arms, pain ripping through his body, but he refused to let go. Lyra stepped forward, her hands glowing once more. She pushed with all her strength, the energy striking the leader square in the chest. His shield cracked, a sharp sound echoing through the broken warehouse. His visor flickered, his armor sparking violently. He fell to one knee, growling in rage. Lyra gasped, falling into Daniel's arms. Her strength was gone, her body limp. The visor's glow dimmed. Daniel held her tightly, whispering, "Stay with me. Please stay." The remaining soldiers regrouped, dragging their fallen comrades. The leader stood, slowly, his armor scorched but intact. His voice was low and furious. "This is not over, human. You cannot hide her forever. The Empire will come in force." They retreated into the shadows, vanishing as quickly as they had come. Only the sound of distant engines marked their withdrawal. Daniel collapsed to his knees, holding Lyra close. His heart pounded in his chest. He had fought soldiers with nothing but scraps and willpower, and somehow they had survived, but he knew this was not victory. It was only the beginning. The dust settled slowly, rays of pale moonlight cutting through the broken roof. Daniel looked down at Lyra, her eyes faintly glowing, her breath shallow. "You gave me sight," she whispered weakly. "But now I see, more than I ever wanted." Daniel brushed her hair back gently, his voice steady. "Then we'll face it together." Outside, the colony remained silent, afraid to move, afraid to speak. But word would spread, whispers would carry, the blind girl could see again, and the Empire would never forgive that. The warehouse lay in ruins. Smoke curled into the night sky, walls cracked, and the floor was littered with rubble. Daniel sat on the ground, his arm wrapped tightly around Lyra. Her visor still glowed faintly, but her body trembled with exhaustion. Her breath came shallow, each one weaker than the last. "You're safe now," Daniel whispered, though he knew it was a lie. The soldiers had retreated, but not because they were beaten. They would return, stronger, with more firepower. He glanced at the broken walls, listening to the distant hum of engines. His chest tightened. They had only bought themselves a little time. Lyra stirred in his arms. Her glowing eyes looked at him, tired but sharp. "You fought for me," she said, softly, "even when you had no reason." Daniel brushed dust from her cheek, his voice steady. "I had every reason. You deserve more than darkness, more than chains, and I won't let anyone take that from you." For a moment, silence fell between them. Only the crackle of small fires filling the air. Then Lyra spoke again, her words heavy. "Daniel, you must destroy the visor." He froze, staring at her in disbelief. "What?" Her hands clenched weakly around his sleeve. "It's too powerful. It's not just giving me sight, it's awakening something inside me, something I cannot control. If they capture me, if they capture this visor, the whole galaxy will pay." "The price," Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, I didn't build it for them, I built it for you. I won't destroy the only thing that gave you back your sight." Lyra's lips trembled, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. My father's blood runs through me. The power that killed armies now runs in my veins, and the visor has unlocked it. They fear me because they know if it grows it will shake empires." Daniel clenched his fists. His mind raced. He thought of the soldiers, Their red visors, their threats? He thought of the people in the colony hiding in their homes. Powerless under the Empire's rule, he thought of Lyra, a blind girl mocked by strangers, now standing as a symbol of hope and danger both. "You have a choice," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "Keep me alive and bring war to every world, or end this now and let peace remain." Daniel's heart pounded. He felt the weight of her words press on his chest like iron. Destroy the visor and take away her sight again, or keep it, and risk a war across the stars. He looked at her face, at the faint tears rolling down her silver skin, and he knew he could never take away her sight again. "No," he said quietly but firmly. "You're wrong about one thing. If they are afraid of you, if they are afraid of what you can do, then maybe it's not a curse, maybe it's a chance. Maybe it's time someone stood up to them." Lyra's eyes widened, her breath catching. "You would fight the Empire?" Daniel gave a faint smile, though his body ached and his ribs burned. "I'm only human, but humans have a way of fighting when no one expects them to. And with you, we're not powerless anymore." She stared at him. For a long moment, her visor glowing brighter as if feeding off her emotions. Finally, she whispered, "Then we walk this path together." From outside, the faint sound of voices carried through the night. The colonists had come out of hiding. They saw the broken warehouse, the scorch marks, the rubble, and whispers spread quickly. "The blind girl can see. The human fought the elites, they survived." Hope flickered in their voices, mixed with fear. Daniel pulled Lyra to her feet, holding her steady. Her body was weak, but her eyes glowed with determination. She looked at the people gathering in, the shadows, and for the first time she did not look away in shame. Daniel whispered to her, "The Empire won't stop now. We need to leave. We need to be ready." Lyra nodded, her voice firm. "Then we prepare, not just for ourselves, but for everyone they have broken." Far above, in the cold void of space, massive ships moved into position. The report from the elite squad had already reached the Empire. Armies were being prepared, fleets mobilized, and deep in their chambers, the High Council whispered one name, the girl with the visor. Back in the colony, Daniel and Lyra stood side by side in the dust and ruins, two figures against an empire. Daniel tightened his grip on the visor, his voice low. "They wanted fear," he said. "But what they've made is hope." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her lips forming a faint smile. "And hope," she whispered, "is something they can never control." The night closed around them, but in the ruins, a spark had been lit, a spark that would soon set fire to the stars.